All right, hello geometry students, glad to see you. I'm going to run through some things to review for your quiz. I did look at your feedback from your homework assignments. I'm glad that you're turning them in and putting in feedback. But there were so many variety. I think a couple of you picked like a couple things you wanted help with, but there was just like each person picked a different question, so I would be basically doing the entire assignment for you because you had one person pick this one the other one. So what I've chosen to do is combine all of that into this review and the relevant questions that you'll need to know for your quiz. So that's how I chose to handle it. I'm not ignoring anybody's questions. I'm just putting it all in this format right here. All right, so moving forward, you're going to have that quiz to do. I know that there's quite a few concepts, but really it all boils down to just a few, and if you know them and you know them well, you're in good shape. So there's a whole lot going on in this picture. We could ask a whole bunch of different things, but just for now, let's focus on finding the measure of arc RT. And if you're supposed to be finding the measure of arc RT, what you need to keep in mind is our key thing is when this crisscrosses outside of the circle, you would need to subtract two numbers. RT, we don't know what it is, but we can give it a variable to represent it. So I'm going to give it this variable x. So you would take, subtract the two, 120 minus x divided by 2. And that has to give you that angle that was formed outside. Use a little bit of your great algebra skills that you brought forward with you. Use those great algebra skills that you brought forward with you, and you're going to multiply both sides by 2. In order to get rid of that denominator. So 120 minus x equals 80. Subtract your 120. Okay, this is just algebra review. Negative x equals negative 40. So if the opposite of x equals negative 40, then x has to equal 40. And that is how much RT equals. For those that just wondered what happened, why I paused, the battery was dying in my headset here, so I had to replace. I'm going through batteries like crazy. All right, so there's that one. There's also various questions about the circle, so you'll need to make sure that you are able to understand about the circle and its graph, and a couple of you were specifically asking about this, so here's your answers to this. We had your basic equation that was r squared equals x minus x squared, or x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. And that's your basic equation that's going to take you through all kinds of questions on this. And so the first thing you need to do if you needed to write this equation is you'd need to find the r, and the radius is 1, 2, 3, 4. You would find that by counting. So 4 squared equals x minus, wait, what's hk? Hk is the center. So negative 1, 3. So h is negative 1 and k is 3, minus negative 1 squared plus y minus, this squared should be on the outside. Y minus 3 squared. So your equation would be 6 equals x plus 1 squared plus y minus 3 squared. Now, keeping that in mind, what you can also be asked to do is you could be asked to go backwards from that. You could be asked to find, if you had an equation like 49 equals x minus 2 squared plus y plus 4 squared. You could be asked to find any manner of different things on that. You could be asked to find the radius. You could be asked to find the center. Okay, so our radius here, if we think about it, r squared is 49. So the radius would equal 7. Our center for this circle, x minus h squared. Okay, so h would have to be 2, positive 2. Sorry. And k would have to be, in this case, y minus k equals y plus 4, so that would mean negative 4 would be our center. And if you need that explained again, please go back and rewatch the video. Then we have, you could then possibly be asked to make a graph. However, the question that says to make a graph, I know that it's difficult on these forms to be able to submit drawings. There is a little box that says I can ask you for that. So what I'm going to do with the question that says to sketch the graph is I'm going to make that one extra credit, and I'll make it an optional question so that if you put in the answer where you have to upload a diagram or you've drawn it on paper and then upload it into the quiz form, I think that's definitely worth bonus points if you're able to do that and put that in. So I'm including the question when you get your quiz, but you're going to have to realize that the one that says sketch the picture is going to be pure extra credit when you put it in. So that's kind of a little, hopefully a gift, and a lot of you will be able to upload from your phone. I don't know how that works exactly, so I'm really hoping to learn a little bit myself on that. I need to pause for a second. And then the other question regarding circles is someone asked me to please do another problem where you've got given a center and going through a specific point. So we want to use that same equation that we started with. We want to use r squared equals x minus h squared. Oh, and I put the squared in the wrong spot again. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared. So here for the center, that's your h and your k. And this is your x and your y. So you would put in r squared equals x minus negative 2 squared plus y minus 0 squared that you got from these 2 points, and you need to solve for r. So this would be x hold on a second. Oh, our x got replaced. Our x should be replaced with a 2. This should be a 2 right here. You see why it should be a 2? Because we forgot, or I forgot to put it in here. Sorry, technical difficulties were getting me. All right, so x2 minus h negative 2. Y is also going to be replaced. Y is going to be replaced with a 0. And our k is going to be replaced with a 9. So y is replaced with the 0. And our k is replaced with the 9. All right, the distractor that was in here is no longer distracting, so I'm in good shape now. So 2 plus 2 minus negative makes positive, plus negative 9 squared. 4 squared is 16. 16 plus 81 makes 97. But that's how much r squared equals. So r is the square root of 97, which I do not have to simplify, because then what I need to do is put back into that r squared equation. So I'm now going to put in square root of 97 squared equals x minus negative 2 squared plus y minus 9 squared. So I end up with 97 equals x plus 2 squared plus y minus 9 squared. So my answer would be that if it asks you to write an equation for that. So thank you for asking that, Jay. You know who you are. Thank you for asking that question. That will appear on your quiz, so make sure that you're careful with that. Again, using this blank form of it, h, k, x, y, x, y, h, k, plugged in and then solved. All right, let's move on to some other questions. We have a lot going on in this picture. Honestly, when it comes to test time, I'll be able to ask quite a bit with this particular picture. But for now, I'm just going to ask you how much the measure of angle CDE would be. So let's think this through for a minute. If we know we have circle R, that means that this is a diameter, which makes a semicircle. So this comes across, and your answer is simply that it equals 90 degrees. Okay, because half of 190, remember the half of the intercepted arc, but that one would have to be 90 degrees. So that'll be something that you need to think through. All right, this one also has a lot going on, but I've got a lot of things that I'm going to ask about this. Sometimes if you think about them, try not to go, oh my gosh, that diagram I can't do. Try to do them one at a time, so you're not trying to do everything all at once. So if you're trying to look at how much angle CMD is, well, think about for a minute, the definition of an arc measure is really just that it is equal to the central angle. CMD is the central angle that goes with it, so that makes 110 degrees fit right in here. And what I would do if I were you is I'd pause it and see how much you can figure out on your own. Angle CAD. Well, CAD is the inscribed angle for that same 110. So angle CAD would have to be half of the inscribed angle, half of the intercepted arc. So when I divide that by 2, I get 55 degrees. So angle CAD is 55 degrees. Angle DFE. DFE is an interesting one. It has to do with the idea that you have the two intercepted arcs here, and the fact that it crosses inside of the triangle, inside of the circle. I've got a triangle here, that threw me off. So crossing inside of the circle means that you add the two arcs and divide by 2. So 110. This one, 110 divided by 2. And 110 divided by 2 is 55 degrees. It does not have to match any of the other things. It just happens to in this case because I added these two divided by 2 and got 55. So just be careful on that. And then we think about arc BC. Well, arc BC is an interesting thing to think about. If we look at this, we've got a half circle here. So we have 110 to here, and half a circle is 180 degrees. So if I take 180 degrees minus 110, I'm going to get 70 degrees. So 70 degrees would be my arc BC. Once again, I'm filling these things in one at a time. I'm not trying to do the whole thing all at once. And then sometimes, even if they don't ask you for a certain measure, if you get stuck, then you can work on figuring out some other things that might be helpful to you. Okay, so this one right here, it's the central angle that goes with the arc, so this one also has to be 70 degrees. And that also makes sense because here's 110 and this makes 180 also. Now, if we're trying to find angle CBD, there's a few ways that you could do that. One of the big ways that you could handle that one is that because it intercepts this 110 degree arc, and it's an inscribed angle, you can take half of it. All right, so this angle right here is half of 110. And again, this one's 55. You can't always expect these things to end up equaling each other, like the 55, the green 55 and the purple 55 and the blue 55. They happen to turn out this way just because of the numbers that I picked, but it wouldn't have to be. Like this one does not have to match this one. However, this one does have to match this one because they both intercept the same arc. So keep that in mind and make the connections that you need to. But this green one especially does not have to equal these two. You just have to be careful on that. All right, here's another one. Some of these have more and some have less. We need to find angle 2 and we need to find angle 1 in this picture. Okay, so you remember that you have an inscribed angle and it's half the intercepted arc. So over here, if we think about these 2 points here, angle 1, here we have this. And so we would have 130 plus 110 for this whole distance across here. So 130 plus 110 is 240 degrees. And if that's 240, then the inscribed angle that's across from it is half of that. So that would make 120. So measure of angle 1 equals 120. And what we had learned before is that the angles, the opposite angles, when you have an inscribed quadrilateral, have to actually be supplementary. So the way that you would find the other one, the quickest and the easiest, would be to just take 180 minus 120 and get your 60 degrees. And if we really think about that, that would make sense because this one would then have to be 120, which would make altogether 360 for your circle. So that's another good mind check to make sure that you're on the right track. All right, let's take a look at this one. We could ask a whole bunch of questions about that, so let's start asking them. One thing that we could ask is we could find the measure of arc AB. And knowing the measure of arc AB, think about this, inscribed angle. So you would have to do 2 times 48 in order to get the intercepted arc. So we'd have a 96 degrees angle here. Or a 96 degree arc, I should say. We could ask also how big the measure of angle ACB turns out. Measure of angle ACB, well, that's intercepting the same arc, so there would be another 48 degrees right there. Okay, you could ask how big, or you could calculate how many degrees for angle 1. Okay, so this is 48. Okay, for angle 1, remember a crisscross in the middle, I could take 96 plus 80 and get 176. So 176 divided by 2 gives you 88. 88 degrees. Notice I haven't really had to resort to the calculator at all. If you need to, it's fine, but so angle 1 is 88 degrees. The average of the two. If you needed to find the measure, let's see. What if we wanted to find the measure of arc BAD, or another one? If we wanted angle BAD, you would have to take 96 plus 106 and get 202. So working your way through the picture, you can find an awful lot more things than what meets the eye. We could maybe even find arc. Let's see, I'm kind of pulling these out of my head real quick, but just so that you know that you can find a lot more than what you might think you could find. We could find, if this is 106, we could find the measure of arc BC. It takes a little bit more work, but let's do that. In order to find BC, if we let this one equal x, and you know, for example, that this is 88, and yes, it's not drawn to scale because it does look obtuse rather than acute, but if we know that this is 88 right here, we can find this one by taking 180 minus 88. Which would give us 92. So if this is 92, what you could do to find x is understand that 106 plus x divided by 2 has to equal 92. You could multiply both sides by 2. 184 equals 106 plus x. And then you would take away 106 from both sides and get that x equals 78. So all those different things, you can be asked an awful lot of questions about a circle such as that with all the pieces that are going through. Find one thing at a time, and even if you get stuck and you're like, wait, I can't find that exact next question, go and fill in as many things as you can. And the more things that you fill in, then the easier it's going to get as far as finding the other missing pieces that you might need to do. So there is that. Let's move on. All right, so we've got a series of questions where you might have crossing outside, remember that one is subtract and divide by 2. So if I want to find out how much angle 1 is in this question, I need to have the things to subtract. I know that this part is 120. So I need to get this arc in play. So if this is 120, altogether we have 360 for a circle. So that would give you 240 for the missing piece. Then you do 240 minus 120 divided by 2 because it crosses outside. So that would be 120 divided by 2, which would equal 60. So in this case, your angle 1 equals 60 degrees. And our other one over here, we're going to take a look. I have an X, and I know that my angle here is 29. Once again, I need to take this piece, and I need to subtract to get this piece. And I think I made an unsolvable problem there because I accidentally missed on that one. So this one I need to borrow a number from the next slide real quick. I'm going to take 5x minus 3. I'm going to give this value in the problem. We can't do it if we don't have a thing over here. So I'm going to take 5x minus 3. And I've got an x here, so what I need to do is take this one minus this one and then divide by 2, and that's going to give us our x. So 5x minus 3 minus x over 2 equals 29. 5x minus x is 4x minus 3 over 2 equals 29. Multiply both sides by 2 to get 58. So 4x minus 3 equals 58. Add 3 to both sides. And 4x equals 61. We divide that out. We get 61 divided by 4 gives you 15, I believe, and a fourth. Or 15.25 if you had taken it out. So 15.25, if I needed to find QR, I'd need to plug that back in. And I don't believe I did make anything come out to be a decimal on this, but just in case, you are allowed to use your calculator. Of course, you can use a smart calculator, you can use a dumb calculator, or just a regular calculator is fine. There's one on the computer screen. You all have one in your phone. 5 times 15.25. And then subtract 3 from it. So 73.25 in this case for arc QR. So this one you had to find x first and then plug it in. If the directions just say find x, then you can just stop with find x. But don't forget to plug in if need be. And then we'll take a look at another question here, and I'm going to take this number off because this is the one that I wanted to have a blank out here. Okay, so we're going to solve this problem, and we're going to find x. Okay, so in order to find x on this one, because we have a whole circle here, the whole circle equals 360. So that means that this part is 360 minus x. So when you're doing subtract and divide by 2, 360 minus x, then another minus x. 360 minus x is the big arc, minus the small arc, divided by 2. Equals that 45. Now, in order to finish this off, 360 minus 2x divided by 2 equals 45. Now remember, I cautioned you 1x and 1x is 2x. Just be careful with your algebra. Multiply both sides by 2. So 90 equals 360 minus 2x. Let's do a little of our algebra here. 90 take away 360 gives you negative 270. And if you divide both sides by negative 2, I'll trust that you can divide that out with calculator or however and get 135. So here our x is 135 degrees. So that's basically it. Make sure that you're studying up. I'm going to release the quiz tomorrow morning. That shouldn't take long. I'll release it and I'll release the answer key. The answer key might actually go up first depending on when I get that finished. And then, or the answer sheet, not the answer key. I'll release the answer sheet. You're going to do the quiz on paper again like you did before. You did an excellent job with that. I think everybody got it submitted online with the exception of possibly one. So great job, guys. So please make sure that you do that again. It makes it very nice because I can grade your responses without actually knowing whose response it is. So it is a very, 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 very good way to grade. Then that way I can be sure to give the feedback to each individual consistently. So if somebody has a problem and they've gotten the same answer as somebody else, I can very consistently do that. Now that being said, this quiz is meant to be you taking the quiz with only you as a resource. You're not meant to be calling each other or doing anything with finding out information from a web search or anything like that. You can use your notes. That's fine. Use your notes, but you are not allowed to actually consult with another person on that. All right? I think that's fair enough. Tomorrow, the quiz, like I said, I will release it first thing in the morning, probably before any of you get up, and then it will be due by midnight tomorrow night. I know all of you have different schedules. Your families have different things going on in their households. That gives you the maximum flexibility as far as when tomorrow you want to accomplish this quiz. But it does need to be accomplished tomorrow. I want you to have a weekend. I want you to have a rest from doing this over the weekend. So that's how I'm choosing to do that. I will close out the quiz tomorrow night. I'm probably not staying up to midnight, to be honest, but that's when your due date is. So if I happen to be up at that time, I'll click close on it. It'll be closed, and then I'll be able to mark them. And if you are late with the submission, there might be, I might post another late submission link, but do know that there would be consequences for that. So just please make sure that you get it done and you get it submitted by 11:59 tomorrow night. All right? Very good. I hope to see you soon. And God's blessings on you and your family. And you can do this.